All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Konig American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the Konig Behind the Wheel podcast.
What's going on? I'm Scott from Konig. With me is Jared from Konig, and we are here with another episode of the Wheel Wednesday Behind the Wheel podcast. This is a good one. I'm excited. I'm pumped because, one, I get to speak to my friend Jack from HP Logic. Two, we get to talk about a topic that I think is really interesting. We almost just did the whole podcast when Justin Candid right before this. But I'm going to get Jack here in a second. The one thing I want to tell you is for people that are coming over from the live stream, welcome. Make sure you get subscribed. You can click that notification button to the channel. We're going to be having a giveaway that's going to be coming up really soon. The only place you're going to hear about it is right here on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, there's a great chance that you will just miss it.
Well, also, we have...
Content Friday. I know.
There we go. He took the words right out of my mouth.
That's it. That's it.
We're doing a garage tour with Speed Academy.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good one.
I'm psyched.
Yeah. We did a garage tour with Speed Academy, and Dave and Pete, first off, they have a lot of cool cars, and two, they really walked us around. So I think it's interesting to see a setting that maybe you only see on YouTube and being able to get a full kind of look at what the facility really looks like. So that's it. Yeah. Let's get Jack. Jack, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Man, I'm pumped to have you here.
I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be really sad, and
Why?
here's why.
Yeah.
You've been talking to Jack for a number of weeks about trying to get an R35
It's
GTR.
probably over a year now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So
Yeah.
I figured with this whole bubble situation and the port congestion issues and everything that you were going to be really down and depressed because the R33 is looking less and less likely for you.
Well, that's what this podcast is about. We're gonna find
I feel like
out.
there should be some sad music playing in the background.
It's so true. I want what I think so many of other people around our age want, which is when you were our parents' age, you wanted 60s Camaros, you wanted GTOs, you wanted all these cars because that was the car that you had. It was nostalgic for you. And, you finally become of age where you can afford one. And that's where we're at with a lot of the Japanese, 90s cars for us.
Yeah. Yeah, dare I say we are our parents' age
I know.
at this point, and the muscle car craze of the 90s and early 2000s has really been sequeled by this JDM craze.
Yeah.
So I've been in cars for as long as I've been around, pretty much, and seeing the muscle car craze and seeing my father has a 1969 Camaro, original owner. It's amazing.
Nice.
And I saw that car go from some old car to one of the most iconic muscle cars that you could find. And it was like really cool to see that growth happen and go through that whole era. And now we're seeing it again. It's another wave. It's JDM this time. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's not sad.
No, I agree with you. I think the only thing that stinks is I was about 1 year too late. but with that said, let's open up with this question, and then we can debate around it and talk around it. A lot of people, and a good person that I've spoken to recently is Sam. Samit, and he's so confident on this JDM bubble, and it's going to burst. And at some point, values will kind of come back down. I don't know as convinced. I think it's a little bit messy. What do you think?
So maybe this is the way I see it. All right. So if you start looking at hard production numbers and you start looking at, like, let's use the muscle car craze as an example. If you look at the amount of cars that were produced in this country in that time versus the amount of cars that were produced in Japan at that time, I think you'll be astonished to see that the Japanese domestic market only cars, like the Skyline and a few other labels specifically, are a lot less produced. If you look at the numbers, you look at the production numbers of like we were just saying, a Camaro or a Mustang from the 60s versus a Skyline from the 90s. You're going to see massive discrepancies between those two in production numbers. And you're also going to see that the American culture, we really took on our own cars from that era, while now the Japanese culture is not the only one taking on their own cars. The whole world wants those JDM cars and those really, really underproduced JDM makes.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is I think Samit is 50% right, in my personal opinion. I think that there will be a bubble that will burst, but I think the bubble is going to burst on all the piles of crap that people are getting way too much money for, that the cars really aren't any good. And I think the bubble will burst for a lot of cars that we had here, because, you know, the used values for everything right now are just astronomical.
Well, let's take a step back. Give the audience an example of what you would consider to be a rusty pile of crap, because I think that's subjective.
Look,
and people need
just
to...
because something's a GTR or it's a Skyline doesn't make it inherently just a valuable car.
Right.
There's a lot of cars that are destroyed.
I think a great example of that really is like our US 240 versus a Sylvia. So I mean, 240s have been going up. Even the US models have been going up consistently. Those cars, the bubble will burst. It will. Yeah. I know for a fact it's going to, because a Sylvia and a 240 are too similar. And I think the same thing for like RX-7s. I hate to say it because I'm a rotary fan, but RX-7s, I think that's a bubble that will burst. There was a lot. Well, you know, I kind of have to go both ways on that, because there weren't that many RX-7s produced even here.
Right.
So, but 240s for sure. A lot of other common chassis that were, you know, used in different models as well.
Yeah. I think the same thing is happening as, you know, I mean, just to relate to myself, the 350Z platform. So these are cars that 8 months ago, 9 months ago, let's say you could find a DE, you know, early 2003, 2004, 2005 car with 120,000 miles, not the best, but not the worst. You could find that car for $5,000 all day. And now you're seeing people sell them for $8,000 or $9,000. That's going to burst.
Well, it's kind of interesting. If you start to really look outward at every single other vehicle, I'm into everything. I'm into trucks. I'm into tractors. I'm into trains, planes, and you name it. Submarines, jet skis. So if you look at trucks, that's another example. Trucks going up. Almost anything you can buy with cash in this country, the price is going up.
Right.
Sorry, Luis.
Certain items, though, if you look, I like to look around the world. I look at the world market as well. The world market is not growing on everything, but it is growing on JDM cars. So that's another weird indicator that I've been watching. The prices of the cars in other countries, the JDM cars, are not going down. They're not changing. They're all going up. And, you know, our stuff, trucks, like I said, everything in the U.S. consumer-wise has been kind of following to suit with inflation, but the JDM market around the world has just been cranking.
I know, and it's crazy because there's so many cars that I can see this bubble bursting on, but there's a lot of cars I think that, like Skylines, GTRs, not all Skylines, but there's a lot of Skylines. I would say coupes, manuals, anything with a turbo, right? I think those cars, I don't think they're going to come all the way back down. You may get some GTSTs that will descend a little bit in value because they're not the cream of the crop.
Some of the weird stuff, automatic cars, things like that.
That stuff is going to come back down. I mean, that's crazy. And, you know, like even like, and I think that there's some cool cars, like the cars that were of value before, cars like Chasers and give me some other ones. I'm blanking on the top of my head. But like
some of like the more obscure ones, you mean?
yeah, but the ones that still had cool engines in them that you can make
Like
some power, Sephoras and
Thors.
yeah, like those cars, I think will still come back down reasonably, but at least they were a value before. Now I don't know that they'll come back down to that value level. You know?
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see the numbers we saw 2-3 years ago for sure. I think that's gone. That's in the past. And if you're in this market right now, and you have one of these cars, you're sitting good. You're gonna lose your money. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely don't recommend overspending. Like if you find an R34 GTR, I don't know if I would just go run to the bank with $500,000, but it's a solid bet that the 34 GTRs, the Supras are not going to go down.
I agree.
They're not.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when you start talking about things like R34 GTRs, like there's just so finite of a number of those cars produced that you're going to get to that stage where if like the cars that are going for $125,000, $130,000, $150,000, I kind of almost think that's there. I don't know. I would say that they're going to elevate in value, not the other way.
Right. Yeah. The fact is these cars are not being produced anymore. A lot of there was a couple of attempts at heritage parts and things like that to bring back OEM parts from the manufacturer to restore these cars.
Yeah.
But the truth is they're not producing them anymore, and people are just using them up. I mean, especially in the performance and drift world, these cars are they're gonna disappear.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fewer cars there are, as history shows us, the more valuable they become.
Yeah.
What about companies like Nissan doing the full restoration programs?
But they're expensive. That Nismo program is like crazy.
I was referring more to the 280Zs and the 240Zs where they're.
I think any of them. They even Mazda did one with the Unos Roadster and the Miata for the. And they want. I mean, but you're still going to spend $60,000 to put it back to stock. You're never going to get that money back. That's outrageous. That's like, not even collector stuff. That's just somebody who's got FU money and they just want to be able to have what they want. Which hey, more power
sounds
to
wonderful.
Yeah, it's good that the option exists.
Yeah, I think that there's so many cars out there that it's so easy. This is the same as Bitcoin. This is the same as stocks. If you had gotten in at 2007, 2008 when everything bottomed out. The fact of the matter is that like Bitcoin right now, it may go up, it may go down, but if you were one of the people that bought in when it was $500 a coin, you did it. And I think there's going to be a lot of cars like that. It's just, you just can't find them. I mean, I'm at that point where an R33 GTR would be amazing, and you can't really even find a really clean one for 50 anymore.
No, yeah, we sold our last one, as you know.
Yeah.
We were kind of eyeballing it, and at this point now, I get calls from people who are willing to pay our asking price from a year ago.
Still can't get
and I can't even get them. I can't even get them for that asking price.
Right.
So it's just not an option. I give them the new asking price, and they're like, oh, I can't afford it.
Right.
So it is what it is. Well, we're lucky. I still have one GTR. The 32 that's up for sale, and a couple of other, just cool all-arounders. But I'll tell you, the K cars are a good option for some people too. I think those cars are getting played now, so you're going to see people throwing that card, and it's a fun little car if you can get in one, like we were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's like, here's the thing. So I think the R32, it's an interesting point. So R32 values, I believe, have calmed a little bit. I'm not saying right now. Right now, they started to go up, obviously, like everything else. But if you put percentages as far as the growth on an R33 and R34, it's kind of very linear, right? Like 32 went up, 33 went up, 34 went up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like the 32s, just because they maybe be a little, what's the right word? I don't want to say older and they've been here, a little bit more
Well,
immune to
they've
people.
got the most market experience, and they have the biggest production numbers as well.
Yeah, right.
So they're the most available of all the Skylines, and they're the most seasoned of all the Skylines as well.
Right.
So if you want to do market research and try to create some sort of a speculation for the later models, you can look at the R32 and say to yourself, it's probably never going to go any lower or raise in percentages lower than the R32 did.
Right.
So it's a good speculation point.
Yeah. I mean, I think R33s will probably be one of those cars that will gain and hold. The R34 I think is going to be on another level real soon.
Yeah, well, if you look at the people, the demographic of people that are interested in the cars, it's the Gran Turismo generation. We played the game, and now we're living the game.
Yeah.
By being able to have these cars. So you look at the R34, and even in that game, it held the highest level of the game's recognition. So it's like in real life now, people they see that 34, and it's so iconic, it's so recognizable. I get people. I have an R34 GTR sitting in a shop right now that, people drive by and they just take pictures of it and they keep going. And you can see the enthusiasm. People just come by, they see the cars. They don't even come into the shop. They just see the cars, take pictures. It's like a car show out here, and they're out of here. And then I'll see them on Facebook or Instagram later.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing to see people latch on to that iconic R34.
Yeah, it's crazy. I wish I had the money to be able to get one and then store it for X amount of years to get it to come over. But you're talking about a serious chunk of change.
Yep, and like I said, in Japan, they are pulling the same numbers they're pulling here.
Yeah, which is crazy. I don't know that that's ever been like that.
I don't know. I guess I haven't been in the importing game long enough to say that I've seen that before, but it's definitely not something that I have seen.
Yeah.
Now, what about? It sounds like we're talking a lot about like Toyota and Nissan primarily, but what about some of the more or less, I should say, legendary cars per se, like the FTO and things like that? I actually tried to get a couple of FTOs, GTOs. We've got Evos. We've done some Evos. Subarus, same thing. If you look at the GC8 Subarus, and they're really cool cars. And in Japan, they actually had a better reputation than they do here. But the FTO is a good example because it's a strange car, but it doesn't tick all the boxes that most enthusiasts want. Like, that car is front wheel drive, and that car doesn't have the turbo crazy motors that the other cars have. They just have an NAV6. So it's a little bit on the lackluster side as far as performance goes, but it is a different enough car that I think it would command enough of a following for people here. You could make a little bit of money by bringing one here, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and then I think if you want to go on that same subject and think about like a GTO SR, right? So that would have been the equivalent to our VR4, 3000 GT VR4 here, right?
The GTO, yeah.
Yeah. So, because there's some GTOs that were just straight NA, and then there was other ones like the SR, I think, is the one that had the VR4 type thing.
Right. All-wheel drive, twin turbo.
They're cool cars, but here's the thing. They were here. Like, we had the option to get them here. So
That's
I think
fair.
that even though, like, when you bring Subarus and Evos, they're cool, but to me, I equate it to, like, you're really just getting a right-hand drive equivalent of what you could have had here.
Yeah, you want to really stunt, you could take a Dodge Stealth RT to Japan.
Yeah.
And those guys go crazy when they see that kind of stuff.
Man,
But
that should be our business, Jack. We'll buy every Stealth RT and we'll export them.
Man, they were paying big bucks for Camaros over there for a little while.
Which ones?
Like the 4th gen,
Really?
Yeah, fourth gen Camaros, F bodies, they were paying double, triple. So, but it's like there's a whole new set of laws getting those cars into Japan because Japan does not want other people's cars in their country.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't blame them.
I saw one person import a Baja, which made me very
Oh,
happy.
yeah. Huh.
I'm a Baja owner, in case you didn't gather that.
All right.
Jack was just about to trash the Baja, and he's like,
"You could still trash it."
Look, I won't trash cars. I'll say every car has its own owner. Every seat, there's an ass for every seat. Is that what they say?
yeah.
Yeah. So I won't trash the car, but I will say that you got to be in a certain mindset to enjoy certain ones.
That's me.
I mean, he's got the Monte Carlo of the Outback.
Oh man, jeez.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a Monte Carlo. I had a '78 Monte Carlo. Good solid car. G bodies,
cool
man.
Cars for what they were.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can do so much to any car. So it's put a nice set of Konig wheels on it.
Yeah.
Drop it. You know what I mean?
Drop, done. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So let's talk about the Supra for a second. Obviously there's just some legends that are going to I think the RX-7 will go up in value. I think there's enough of them. I do think though that with some of these cars, the trim becomes exponentially important to the value.
Oh
of the
yeah,
car, right?
for sure. RX-7. I'll step on that one first, just because that's close to home. I have a Type RZ.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that is even a model. But if you look, it was their least produced. There was 150 original 93 Type RZs. I have one. And they had Recaro seats and all kinds of cool little extras that people don't know about.
Yeah.
Different gear ratio in diff and stiffer engine mounts and things like that. Just really cool little stuff. So those unique trim models, like you said, are definitely gonna fetch some value. If you look at the CYM, the yellow cars here in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, I have one of. I think there was 540 of them. I have one of them, and LZ has the rest of them. But it's pretty amazing to see the value hike on a specific model, like you said.
Yeah, Adam has his whole retirement fund in that garage.
Which garage? He's got like 18
he's got
garages.
that big one now at the compound.
Jeez.
But all those cars that he picked out, I mean, I hate to say it, but if you want to look at him from a business aspect, Adam did it right. He got a lot of those cars before they had shot up tremendously.
He's a brilliant guy. He's way beyond his years, and he's definitely got it figured out. So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, all those cars. I mean, he walked into every single one of those cars with a plan. I don't care.
Yeah.
And what the best part about Adam is he makes it look very like it was just a whim, but it's not. He's so calculated. He knew what cars he was buying, and he did the research, and he knew the timing, and he saw a value there that there was an undervalue, and he got in.
It's good. Like you said, he's real calculated, and every one of his models are kind of, like you said, unique. So it is really neat though to see like you said, a Supra. You got the final edition, I guess you want to call it, or limited edition Supras here in the U.S. They are just the 6-speed turbo, just launching value, $200,000, and then the Japanese SR models or SZ models are they were hovering around 25, 30.
Yep.
But now everything's kind of cranking up. The Supras are all kind of leveled out and moving in that direction. They're hard to get.
The hard part is that so I see some Supras going locally because I've shifted. Like now I'm just at the point where I have a list of cars, and if I find any of these cars in the list, regardless, and I can get them, I'm pulling the trigger. That's my new strategy here. So. But one of those cars obviously is a Supra. But with a Supra, there's so many people that have, right-hand drive NA automatic cars, and they're looking for too much money, and because they sit.
The Supra's another unique case too, because it's one of the only cars that are completely interchangeable.
Yeah.
Any Supra you can put any part from any other Supra into, and it'll fit. So if you have, like you said, a bottom of the bucket automatic NA Supra with less than, I would say, the investment in the same car, you can turn it into a 6-speed twin turbo.
Right.
Now, I mean, you're going to spend some money. The V160s they're $12,000 just for if you can find a good one. Yeah. But I mean, that's just an example, because you put all that stuff into a bottom level Supra or chassis, and you can't even tell, other than the VIN number, you can't even tell that the car didn't come with that stuff.
Yeah.
While with a Skyline, you can't do that.
Right. Well, so on the Supra specifically, though, don't you think that the value is really going to depend on the car's original model? For example, you're not going to take an auto twin turbo auto car and put in a 6-speed and fetch the same
the 6-speed number.
Right. Yeah. No, I think originality is definitely going to play a part. I don't think that it's going to necessarily destroy the market for all the other models.
Right.
That's the other thing, because again, low production numbers, and it's just the scarcity of the parts alone. If you have the V160, if you have the GTE, if you have these parts, those parts are actually commanding, I would say, close to the use value when you look at them as an original part in the car.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. I think that it's interesting to see. I see a lot more people now that, because the gearboxes have gotten so expensive, that they're going the route of trying to put Collins adapters and CD09s in them, just because gets the car converted.
Sure, yeah, and the R154s, and they're doing all kinds of different transmissions that just like you said, just get it going. But those will affect the value. You're not going to get V160 money for a CD09 in an NA car. You just won't get it. So that's but it's still a cool car. It's still a 6-speed, I guess, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, and I think that is one of those things. I think you're going to find the same way where, like, older Camaros, even the cars that are not number matching, they don't fetch as much money, but if they had the correct vintage parts on them, they still nowadays get a good sale value on them.
And they're still going to have that inherent classification system or caste system, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. The Supras have been up there for a while. I don't know. I think, like, you're going to see the Supra, especially since it was offered here in the U.S., I think you'll start to see them segregate a little bit. Like, I think the really rare cars, the 6-speed, twin turbo cars, they're just going to take off. And then everything else is going to have some climb, but not really, like, astronomically.
Yeah, that's probable. I mean, higher models, the rarest models, and the rarest trims, and again, originality plays a key into it. So if it's a completely restored car with modern parts, it might not be the same as a unmolested original example that's documented. Yeah. That's a tough one too. A lot of these cars that come from overseas, they're the opposite of unmolested, and they have seen rough times, and they, even a lot of them, I hate to say this, not me, but a lot of importers have disassembled these cars, brought them over, reassembled them, and sold them as one. And they're, for lack of a better term, they're chopped up.
Yeah. And
you lose a lot of the originality when you take those bolts loose, and you lose a bracket here, and you lose a couple of screws there. So that's going to play a role too. You're going to see a lot of people authenticating cars to the point where they know that they are original, they're documented, and those cars will set themselves apart.
What other cars do you think are on that JDM list? Like, do you think MR2 twin turbo cars are going to be there, or is that just going to be like, what are the cars?
I think that the iconic cars that are always going to be at the forefront of everybody's mind is going to be Supras, Skylines, and RX-7s.
Right.
Those are going to be that's like the Super Three Amigos. You have the secondary ones, which are going to be your Subaru, Mitsubishi, and then, like you said, some of the other models, MR2 and stuff like that. But I think that outside of those, if you go into like the tertiary cars, it's a crapshoot. But those main cars, those hero cars, and another good point I was going to make too was if you look at the pop culture behind this stuff, if you look at the Fast and Furious, I mean, when those original movies came out, the cars that were in those movies are the cars that people are focusing on today.
Yeah.
Some of them maybe not, but I would say there you go. So good. Craig Lieberman, he was the tech director for that.
Yeah.
And I spoke with him before. Brilliant dude. He was way beyond his time, and the cars that he was putting together back then became absolute icons in the industry. And if you look back, you watch that movie today, you can almost see those cars on the street today.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It's cool to see that. So those cars, those hero cars are definitely what I would focus on as a collector or as a person that's looking to put their money.
And it's so funny to me, just from like a personal standpoint. Like, I think a couple of years ago, like when I would tell people that the Fast and the Furious series is played a main role in influencing me as a car person. I think when I said that like a couple of years ago, I felt weird, like, oh, I'm referencing this movie, like what a weirdo. But now you look at how influential that whole series has become.
Yeah,
and it's
huge.
It's not so weird anymore,
Yeah. The first couple movies, I was really stoked because I had the RX-7 when the first one came out. So I was like, wow, they picked my car, And then when they came out with, I forget which one it was, but when they had the Grand Nationals. So I had a T-Type at the time.
Nice.
And I was like, wow, to see these cars, because it almost gave you like more street cred knowing that they picked those cars too.
I feel like that was Fast 5.
Was it?
I think.
That was right around the time I think I started losing interest just because it was getting too action-y.
Blockbustery,
Yeah. But still, I mean, the cars from that franchise are just, they're icons. And we all have our own vision of how we want to see cars, obviously, but theirs I think was a pretty well-rounded version. So.
Yeah, I don't know that the Eclipse made it. That's number one. I mean, they went up in value just maybe from what they were used, but it didn't really make it all the way. Let's see. What's an interesting one to me, and has nothing to do with the fact that I have one, but what's interesting to me is what could potentially happen with the 350s and 370s. I'll explain. So 350s and 370s are like the S chassis of what happened. You watched all those cars get used, abused, destroyed, and then like the nicer ones held some value, right? But there were some trim packages that within the 350Z and the 370 that, became a little bit more rare. So I think that there's a chance that those cars being cleaner may ascend in value to some degree down the road. The other thing is there really wasn't any difference except for the left-hand drive, right-hand drive between those cars in Japan and here. So
yeah, it's kind of strange, with those cars, with the VQ chassis cars. Yeah, they I don't think they're as regarded in Japan.
Right.
I don't think that they have like the same enthusiasm that maybe the rest of the world has for those cars. It's the Z is a special car just because it's the Z.
Right.
But as far as the entire chassis as a whole, I don't think that they had. Personally, I don't think that they had that. I love the car. I think they're
Yeah.
great cars. I love the transmission. I love it. But I don't think that they had the same level of respect, I guess, for the
No.
cars that left Japan and got popular in other countries.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's
like
true.
the RX-7. The RX-7 again is a weird one because it really, for what it was, they did not make them. They did not make many of them, even here in the U.S. I think it was like 15,000 of them.
Right.
So, it was really low production. It wasn't a big number. But
Yeah.
the Zs, they made quite a few.
A million of them.
Yeah.
You know?
And they had, I mean, there's so many that were just automatic and whatever. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Convertible.
oh, yeah.
Yep.
But it seems to be one of those models that, like, I equate the 350 to kind of the same level as, like, an MR2. Like, you're going to see that area where some of the MR2s that have the right trim packages and, and whatever, you'll see those cars hold some value, and every other one of them is just a mess.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I like to watch, like, a lot of the Japanese, I don't want to say literature, but whatever you want to call it, videos and things like that, like Best Motoring,
Yeah.
and Hot Version, that kind of stuff. I think that those are really good indicators for hot platforms of cars that are, gaining popularity in Japan.
Yeah.
And you can almost incite that same gain in the market here. So, the MR2 is a tough one, just because it's small, it's a little different, it's mid-engine. It doesn't fit everybody's. It's not a universal car like
Yeah.
the way a lot of the other chassis are.
Right.
It's a pretty specific chassis. It's almost a K car in essence. It's small,
Right.
It's a little version. The 350Z is not. 350Z is it's a car. It's a man's car. You can get in it. That's definitely something that has some substance to it. You're not going to feel like you're too big for the car. You're not going to feel like you're, getting too little car for your money. So
yeah, it's interesting to see what happens with the new Z that's possibly coming out.
Yeah, interesting. I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to pan out, but if they stick to the plan and they stick with that real Z heritage, I don't think they'll do bad.
Yeah, somebody just put a comment in about NSXs, and I think that they follow suit with the Supras and RX-7s. I mean, they're up there too.
Sure, yeah. That's hero level. I would say that's a almost exotic. They tried to make the exotic car out of it. Really well built car.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't hit the performance levels.
Oh yeah.
That the other cars do. For what it is, if you look at it, you say to yourself, "Well, this is going to be like something one level above, or I mean, has to at least do as well as those other cars." And when you start to put a couple of minor modifications into the Supras and the RX-7s and the Skylines, they just walk away from an NSX.
Oh yeah. The car inherently was underpowered for the class it was selling in, and that was the problem with the car. Period. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? They could have. Honda was, I think, afraid of turbos then.
they've always been historically afraid of turbo. I remember when their jet ski came out and it was turbo. I was like, really? Because I think they had a turbo motorcycle too. I mean, they definitely aren't the turbo kings of the world.
Yeah, the NSX, they're a cool car. I think it still is one of those cars that just so limited in numbers will kind of hold its inherent value.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, I guess the last thing I would want to touch on then is just, specifically with these cars that are lesser desirable and more like hit or miss. It reminds me of a debate that I had with a friend of mine a couple months ago of like, do you go for the imported car or do you stick to the USDM car when the prices are the same? Now, I have my feelings on it, like when I think of, say, a legit JDM Type R versus a USDM Type R, I think like, well, I mean, it was born in Japan. Like, I'd rather have the JDM Type R, you know. But
it depends. It depends on the model. Again, some trim models weren't available stateside. Like I said, the Type RZ RX-7, you couldn't get it here. The Spirit R, we didn't get it here. There's certain models of the car that you could get, and those, if you want to really own the highest level or the most spirit in the car, you have to go to JDM. And then but if we're gonna look at like two identical same exact cars, just one's right hand drive, one's left hand drive, some of them are a little bit strange. If you look at like an SR20 powered car, an SR20 powered car has the turbo on what would be the driver's side, right? In our country. So you'd have a downpipe kind of going there and all that stuff. So to have a US model, you're kind of like, man, it's like, why would you want to have the steering column on that side and everything? And then a JDM version then kind of opens that whole area up. There's chassis differences and things. So you got to kind of look at it that way. But I do agree to some certain extent that a JDM model of a car that was built in the Japanese market is probably more pure.
But then you go to the value, like look at Supras. Like if a left-hand drive Supra, if equivalent to a right-hand drive, the left-hand drive goes for more money. The USDM cars seem to be going for way more money.
That's purely on production.
Yeah.
There was just more of them. There was more of them made in the right-hand drive.
Right.
So, the left-hand drive variant is super rare. Same thing with RX-7s. Left-hand drive RX-7s fetch more money than right-hand drive RX-7s.
But like I hear that and that doesn't matter to me. When I think of
well, but the whole thing was based off of value.
Right.
There's two ways to look at it. You have
is different.
Yeah, you have intrinsic value and you have monetary value.
Yeah.
So it's like which one are we, you got to look at it both ways.
I agree. Well, Jack, keep looking for an R33. And
okay.
We're gonna there's one that's coming up here locally. It's got me a little sketched just because
you're still talking to that person.
Oh yeah.
Oh
well, never know.
Well, if you need a second opinion, if you need some help, I'm always a phone call away.
I appreciate it. I may have to do a FaceTime call while I look at this car.
We'll do a whole podcast of you just checking this car out.
No, it's so true. Let's see. Let's get to some questions. We got a few of them. Yeah. Somebody said, I'd love to find a clean Starion or Conquest to take to Radwood, but he enjoys a 2020 RF. So, yeah, I mean, I think in the Starion Conquest, they're kind of nostalgia cars. They'll have a
it's got that 80s look, the boxy thing. It's like a DeLorean, Yeah. DeLoreans have that same look.
Oh yeah, I'm a DSM, Mitsu guy. Like at least that's what I was originally, and I will say that I never. First off, Starion's Conquest, they were buckets of crap. I'm sorry, like they were, but you could do some cool things with them. We used to put 4G63s in them all the time.
Right.
That was an easy swap. But the truth is, unfortunately, we also did that to a lot of FDs. And that was a mistake. So, I mean, can't always be right. Let's see. That's Luis's comments. We'll skip over most of those. He's trying to find a car in the comments. Let's see.
You have any Mazda B2000s?
What?
That's what he's looking for. I'm saying
God.
Luis is
so
maybe Jack can help.
No, Jack can't help with that.
What are you looking for?
He wants a B2, one of those 2200, the Mazda trucks.
Oh, a hard body?
Ugh.
That's really what he wants. Yeah.
Good truck. I'd rather get a Hilux, but
nice. Yeah, that's what he should do. He should get a Hilux.
Have you seen you guys watch Whistling Diesel?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh my God. You should see what he's doing with the Hilux.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Oh boy.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other type of thing. Luis is looking for something that doesn't have Whatever. Let's see here. NSX. When you say RX-7, are you talking about FD? Yes, an FD. The NCs really, I don't think are really gonna shoot up there.
The FC.
No, somebody was saying like we're talking about FD RX-7, and yes, I mean the FC RX-7 is not really gonna get there.
You know, it's got its own little thing because FC RX-7s were $500
Right.
4 years ago.
That's right.
They're now packing 10 grand
Oh,
non-turbo. So they've had their own. If you look at the percentages, they're one of the biggest performers.
Yeah.
But like you said, they will never fetch FD money.
Right.
But they will surprise you.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know, they were cool cars if you got like a Turbo 2.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm scorned. They used to have that problem where the fuel line used to pop off, and it was right in line with the exhaust manifold, and it would just instantly.
They had so many different problems. It's not even fair to look at the problems in those cars without saying at least it's like the Starion. The Starion was cool, right?
Yep.
Cool to look at.
Yep.
Yeah, the FC was cool to look at.
Yeah, I wonder, like, you look at a lot of these, Evos and stuff like that. They're doing fairly well at holding their own value. I will say there has been, especially like Evo 8s, 9s, they really seem to build a strong following and hold that value.
Even the 10s.
Yeah, well,
I feel like they're
final
not
edition 10s. The dealers are trying to buy them back for more than they sold them for.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
That 10
I don't
to me
get
was a
that.
letdown, though.
Yep.
I don't know.
I think it's a strong car. I don't know if it's worth mentioning as far as JDM stuff goes.
Yeah.
But it is a strong car. The 4B11 is a great motor. It's the architecture for that motor is seen in some other engines too, even in the jet skis and like the Yamaha jet skis.
We keep going back to the jet skis.
Well,
hey man, I do everything.
yeah.
No, I get it.
But Gen Coupes are the same way. They had that 4B11.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Give
they
you a
got that
car
same.
to
So
calm you down.
he's on a hate train right now.
No.
You know what it is? We throw him so much hate on his Baja that he's trying to throw it back.
There you go.
Jeez.
I
All
get
right.
picked on so much here, man. It's,
Is it automatic?
no,
No.
it's manual. It's turbo.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got respect for that.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's cool. So,
Well, wait. There's one more.
What do you say?
I would love to get a Cosmos one day.
Yeah, Cosmo, the Unos Cosmo. That's a really interesting car. 'Cause that was the only car that came with the 3-rotor.
right,
That's where every 3-rotor came from.
right.
So I have one in one of my FDs, and interesting. Cosmo's an interesting one. I think that hits some boxes that a lot of people look for in collectibles. You want that 3-rotor though. You don't want the 2-rotor.
Man, it's incredible. Like those rotaries have I stood next to Mad Mike's car. Oh, you feel it in your chest. It's
You don't even have to tell me, man.
I know.
I
I know.
Dude, we had a 4-rotor on the dyno not too long ago. I mean,
Jack the
the
torque,
sounds. It's a little torquey. It's still not like V8 torquey.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is actually. But man, that top end wind, when you get to 10,000 RPM with one of those, you're not stopping it. It's crazy. Crazy.
I don't know how they hold together. It's such an interesting design. So inefficient, but like efficient at the same time. Weird.
Efficient, volumetrically efficient.
Right.
But
Good.
not great for fuel. But awesome design. A different world, different conversation. We could talk for hours about that one.
I know. Listen, I appreciate the fact that you came on here to talk about this. I think that this is something that I've heard the most about as people are looking for cars. And the worst part is this is right up there with the people that are hawking chlorine, barrels of chlorine right now because it's such a shortage.
no.
Listen. Please, for the love of God, if you have cars that are piles of crap, please don't list them for like way too much money because here's what's happening. You're wasting your own time. Like It's incredible.
There's a lot of cars that shouldn't be for sale that are, and I think that to each their own.
Yeah.
If someone wants to pay big money for something, let them.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, and more power to them. I don't think that they're alienating us from being able to buy cars if we don't have the same money. But at the same time, don't kill the joy either. If the cars are increasing in value, they're increasing in value. You know?
One last one. What do you think happens with an R35?
Okay, so an R35 is a really tricky one because the R35 is kind of in the position that the Supra was 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
And honestly, they're producing a lot of them compared to the Supra. So the Supra in the U.S., we saw the last year in 97, right? 97, 98. We only saw those 4 years of them. And the R35 has already gone way past that. We're talking 2008. We're in 21, and they're just still doing it. So I think that if you look at the R35 as a collectible car, it's probably not going to make you a lot of money.
Right.
But it's definitely bang for the buck, a hard one to beat.
They're cool cars, and I think the only thing that really gets complicated with them is they're expensive part cars. You can't, you have a transmission issue and you got a $20,000 job on your hands. So
yeah, they kind of bridge the gap between an exotic and a typical car.
Yeah.
If you look at, like you say, like cost per mile on these cars, they're less than a Lamborghini.
Yep.
But they are definitely more than, let's say, a Supra or something like that. And even the modern Supra, if you look at the A90, they took a different route than Nissan. Nissan went, you know what? The GTR is so epic, so Godzilla, that we're not even going to make a Skyline model of it. It's literally just the GTR. They stripped the GTR emblem off of the previous models, which are Infinities here in this country. They stripped the GTR emblem away from being able to be put on that car, and they made it its own model. And so that's kind of special, I think, if you look at it from that point of view. So
yeah, it's an interesting car. It just has some check boxes, but I don't know.
It's
that's going to be one of those cars you have to wait and see how many are actually left. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bespoke model. You're not seeing the VR38 DETT in any other car. You're not seeing that GR6 combination. It is definitely its own breed. So I guess we'll have to see if they stop producing them, which I think they said they were gonna end that production. I didn't quite remember when, but I think it's coming. If they stop producing them, we might see a value spike. There's 3 different real tiers. You got the first ones, the CBAs and the DBAs, and then the more modern 2015 up. But those 3 distinct sectors are going to have their own values for sure.
Yeah, it seems like that middle area
DBA,
is the sweet spot.
Yeah, 2012 and up. Yeah, for sure. If you're looking for one, get there.
Yeah, that's where you want to be.
Well, I mean, think about it. The first rendition of almost every car, you got to fight through all the gremlins. Is that? I mean, is that fair to say with this?
Yeah,
or?
a little bit.
I think if you look at them if you look at the collectible cars, some of the first models are worth more. But like you said, I think the two of you have 2 different ways of valuing cars, and one of you, Scott, is like more of like the collector level, and then you're kind of more of like the everyday use. So what good is this collector car if you're not going to be able to outperform the later models versus this is the first model. It has the most sentimental value to the company. And, it's just different ways to look at it. Values are really tough to grab. You have to take a consensus of everybody who's buying and just say, who's paying big money for what?
Yeah. It's interesting though, because that's what car enthusiasm is all about. It's about the fact that you don't have to like what everybody else likes to make it
No.
worth something to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's important.
Yeah, super important. Well, look, I appreciate it. We're not going to waste any more of your time. But
It's not
for
a waste.
those of you who have big money and want to get a GTR, Jack is your guy, HP Logic. He probably could find a bunch of other Japanese cars, sort of, kind of, as long as you have the checkbook.
Yeah, that's it. As long as your wallet can handle it, and the sky's the limit.
That's right.
There you go.
So I guess we're going to get out of here. Jack, hang on for a second. I'll speak to you in a moment. And for everybody else, again, stay tuned. This giveaway thing is going to happen. It's coming up. And if you're subscribed to this channel, you'll be – this is really the only place you're going to find out. So stay tuned. Friday, we'll have a piece of content, garage tours from Speed Academy. That should be a good one.
There you go.
And that's it. We'll catch you next Wednesday. Take care of yourself.